Hey guys, this is the second jazz run video and we'll be combining the components we covered from the first video to complete a full jazz run. There are two videos for a reason, so be sure you spent enough time on the first one before jumping into this one. If you have access to a football field, I definitely recommend you use it. The step size we'll be using through most of this video is a 5 to 5 or 1 yard per step, so using a football field for reference will give you better success. At the end of this video, we'll be pushing into a full 4 to 5 jazz run. The next step in this technique is jazz run kick and rolls. We're only going 5 steps in the video, but you should be taking the exercise on a longer phrase, probably more like 10 to 15 steps at a time. The count structure for the jazz run kick and roll is best thought of as each step in a 4-count phrase. You'll be given 8 beats of prep where you initiate on the and of 8 like normal, articulate on 1, move to the and of 1, and hold that position during counts 2, 3, and 4. Then you'll repeat with the other foot. You're already in the initiation position, so from here you just have to think about and 1. So if you're taking 10 steps, in your head you should be thinking and 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 2 and 2, 3, 4, and 3 and 2, 3, 4, and so on. You should still be using a met, and the target tempo for now is between 102 and 112 beats per minute. As you're watching, you can clearly see the mechanics we talked about in the first video. From the initiation to the first articulation, you're dropping into the plie. On the articulation, it's a toe lead with the heel off the ground and the toes and knee pointed away from the body. And on the and count, you can clearly see the placement of the foot next to the ankle and at the correct angle. While you're holding the and count position, you should be double checking the angle of your knee, the placement of your foot, and the angle of your foot. Be sure that your toe is also pointed straight down. After the kick and roll, we're going to start jazz running at half time. Again, just like the normal marching technique, this should feel a lot more comfortable and fluid as you're putting the pieces together. This time we'll be taking 10 steps, and the count structure here is simple. You'll get 8 beats of prep and should move and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and so on. The tempo for this exercise needs to be between 64 and 72 beats per minute, and you should be using the subdivision function if it's possible. At this slower tempo, you should be able to think about all of the mechanics we've covered to this point. Looking at the video, you can clearly see the fluid motion of the jazz run. Once you've hit the first articulation, be sure you're staying in plie at the same level. The only time you come out of that is as you close your feet and you pop back to the standing position. Be sure you're turning out both the knees and toes and that you're not changing the vertical plane of the upper body. Don't lean forward or backward or side to side. For the next 2 videos, there won't be much commentary. At this point, you should have a pretty decent understanding of the technique, and this is your chance to see it in full motion. The next step is a 5 to 5 jazz run. We've been working at the step size, so you should be fairly comfortable with it. The tempo we're looking at should be between 132 and 144 beats per minute, where every beat is a new step. Don't try to rush this tempo. Keep it between 132 and 144. You should start at the lower tempo and slowly work your way to the higher tempos. At a minimum, you should be able to perform this technique at 132 beats per minute. The last thing is the 4 to 5 jazz run. The count structure is the same as the 5 to 5 jazz run, but now we're extending the leg just a little bit more. Again, if you've got access to a football field, you should take advantage of it. This is 4 steps for every 5 yards. The tempo should still be between 132 and 144 beats per minute, and you should be aiming to take 12 or 16 steps at a time. Take some time now to look through the last 2 videos. You can see that the knees and feet are turned out the whole time, and that the and count happens right at the ankle. Once the jazz run is started and you're in the plie, there is no change in height until the close. As you're working, be sure you're taking slower tempos initially and gradually work toward those higher tempos.